Hello everyone, I am Rajeshwari Moganty, Professor in the Department of Biochemistry at All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi. The module we are doing today is 28 in paper 12 on membrane biophysics. This module is on resting potential of the nerve cell, action potential of the membrane and Hodgkin-Huxley equation, etc. So, before I give you the objectives that are laid down for this module, I would like to give a brief introduction. Now, you are already familiar with the structure of the different parts of the neuron, right? The neuron has major components of the brain and also the spinal cord of the central nervous system. Now, the autonomic ganglia and peripheral neural system. Now, the neuron is electrically excitable that processes the and transmits the information through electrical and chemical signals. This is the gist of how the neuron works and what does it do. Now, neurons are actually connected by synapses and can connect to each other to form neuronal networks. Now, the figure I have shown you again for your own refreshing your knowledge, the neuron and its connection axon and how the different parts of the neuron work together and direction of the current that is processing, that is it is a directional and not it is dependent on the direction and not a directionless phenomena. The transmission of the nerve impulse along a neuron from one and the other either occurs as a result of electrical charges across the membrane of the neuron. Now, the ion transporters, pumps and these are the one actually push the ions across the membrane and therefore, they establish the concentration gradient across the membrane. And then the ion channels allow the ions to move across the membrane and then these across the membrane and down the connections the gradients are formed and therefore, the overall voltage between the two sides of the membrane. They create a difference in the potential or the voltage difference between the across the membrane on both sides. Now, the membrane of an unstimulated neuron has difference in electrical charge between the outside and inside of the membrane. This module actually deals with the potential differences between the differences in the nerve cells. Therefore, the objectives of this module are that the transmission of the nerve impulse along a neuron and from one end to other occurs as a result of electrical changes across the membrane of the neuron. The ion transporters or the pumps that proteins actively push across the membrane and establish concentration gradients across the membrane and ion channels allow the ions to move across the membrane down those concentration gradients. Therefore, there is actually a voltage difference that is created between the two sides of the membrane. Now, the other objective is to explain to you the membrane of an unstimulated neuron has difference in electrical charge between the outside and inside of the membrane. Therefore, we will discuss the resting potential of the nerve cell and then what happens during when the signal is there, that is action potential, how it is generated across the membrane. Then of course, the famous Hodgkin-Huxley equation, then depolarization of the neuron, then lastly the refractory period. So, these topics are covered. Nevertheless, the nerve transmission will continue how the propagation occurs in the further coming modules. Now, let us understand what happens to the potential difference of the nerve cell when it is resting. Now, I have shown you the diagram that across the membrane the potassium and sodium concentrations are different and inside the sodium concentration is low while outside the membrane there is a sodium concentration high. Similarly, the potassium concentration is high inside while outside the membrane it is low. Therefore, there is a voltage dependent sodium channel is present. Now, a constant potential difference exists between the interior and the exterior of the cell, which is known as the resting potential, that is derived because of the concentration difference between the sodium across the membrane and potassium across the membrane. And there are three different sources of this potential. Now, what are they? The first one is the Donan potential. This is due to the charged organic molecules within the cell to which the cell membrane is impermeable. Therefore, the charge of the organic molecules is predominantly negative, that is the Donan potential is negative. Therefore, the next step is the action of the ion pumps which are embedded in the membrane, and an ion pump can transport ions across the membrane in the direction of the increasing electrochemical potential called the active transport. The ion diffusion through these ion channels, on the other hand, follows the direction of the thermodynamic driving force, which is the driving force of the decreasing electrochemical potential. Therefore, this is called the passive transport. We have already explained what is active and passive transport in the previous modules of this paper. The active transport can also occur through coupling to passive transport of the another ion. Therefore, for this case the term is actually called secondary active transport. Now, here I have shown you diagrammatically the different processes of the resting membrane potential of the neuron. In the first one we have shown the resting potential, where as explained earlier, the difference in the concentrations of the sodium and potassium. But due to the membrane being more permeable to potassium, potassium actually flows out the membrane faster than the sodium, and therefore, the sodium flows in and membrane potential, there is a difference in the potential that is developed. That is the second part that is shown in B. Now, the third one is the next. Consequently, what happens? The electrical force opposes outflow of the potassium and therefore favors the inflow of the sodium. One goes out and one enters. Therefore, there is a change in the electrical gradient that is developed. In the next one, that is in D, what happens? The second step, that is in the next one, that what happens is the potassium outflow slows down and sodium inflows speeds up. Therefore, to compensate the changes that occur due to the potential gradient, eventually the membrane potential stabilizes. That means it come back to other kind of resting potential, that is shown in D. Now, finally, what happens? A sodium pump potassium pump, which is called sodium/potassium pump, counteracts the leakage flows and maintains the sodium and potassium gradients at a steady state. So, this is how the potential of the maintained at the resting phase, and that is how the sodium and potassium are maintained. So, this is explained in much more detail, that electrical charges fixed to the inner and outer membrane surface, and fixed membrane charges are distributed homogeneously on the membrane surfaces. The membrane surface charges are screened by the ions of the electrolyte solution that wets the membrane. In addition, ions with multiple valency like calcium and magnesium may bind to part of the surface charges depending on the screening and the binding on either side of the membrane. Therefore, the fixed surface charges generate a neatly or nearly step-like variations of the potential, which extends over the width of the screening ions in cloud. The potential steps are the surface potential. Now, the total membrane potential, which is the potential difference between the bulk of the internal and external electrolyte solution, therefore, has three parts. One is the transmembrane potential, the other is the inner and external surface potential. The transmembrane potential, which governs the active and passive transport across the membrane, and internal and external surface potential are particularly sensitive to the concentrations of divalent ions like calcium and magnesium, and this is a physiological significance as it provides a mechanism for changing the transmembrane potential by a change in the external calcium ions. The interactions that generate the resting potential are modeled by Goldman equation. This is similar to that we have seen in the Nernst equation, where there is a equal change in the ions. In that, what is based on the charges of the ions in question as well as the difference between their inside and outside concentrations. Therefore, as you know the Nernst equation, E equal to, that is RT by ZF ln the concentration outside, I by the concentration inside. Now, in thermodynamic equilibrium, that is without net flux of the ions, the electrical potential of an ion I and the charge Z across the cell membrane can be shown by this equation, that is the Nernst equation. The Goldman equation, there are 3 ions which appear in this equation, that are potassium, sodium and chloride. Calcium is omitted because it can be added to deal with situations in which a significant role is there, but here we are not considering calcium. So, we have 3 ions, potassium, sodium and chloride. Remember, chloride being an anion, the terms are treated differently from that of the cation terms. If you look at the equation, the intracellular concentration is the numerator and the extracellular concentration is the denominator in case of chloride. Whereas, the 2 other terms, potassium and sodium, the partial relativity or the permeability of the ion of potassium and sodium actually appear in the numerator. So, the final equation I would read, the E equal to RT by F ln P, that is the relative permeability of potassium outside plus sodium outside plus chloride inside the membrane by the total the permeability, that is the P potassium inside, sodium inside, while plus chloride outside. So, remember that chloride has being a negative ion, contribution is different in the Goldman equation. Now, after studying the resting potential, now what happens when there is a what happens during the action potential? This is actually generated by special type of voltage gated ion channels which are embedded in the cell's membrane, plasma membrane. Now, these channels are shut when the membrane potential is near the negative or the resting potential, but actually they rapidly begin to open up if the membrane increases to a precisely defined threshold voltage, that I will be showing you in the next slide, the diagram how are the threshold voltage for a neuron to fire, and threshold voltage depolarizing the transmembrane potential. In case of the animal cells, there are 2 primary action potentials. One, the generated by the voltage gated sodium channels, and the second one generated by the voltage gated calcium ions. So, when these channels open up, they allow an inward flow of sodium which changes the electrochemical gradient. Then that electrochemical gradient that is generated in turn produces a further rise in the membrane potential. Therefore, this then causes more channels to open up, therefore producing a greater electrical current across the cell membrane, and this continues. This process proceeds explosively, that is with so much speed, until all the available channels are actually opened up. Therefore, that results into a large upswing of the membrane potential. This diagram clearly shows you the graph between as per the time of the action potential, that is neuron that is generated, which are actually you can see that with milliseconds, the total actually happens within a time of 7 milliseconds after the neuron is fired, and y axis shows you the membrane potential in millivolts. You see there is in the resting potential it is shown, and then there is a threshold potential, then there is a depolarization, then actually after the action potential reaches the threshold, then there is a refractory period, after that there is a repolarization, and therefore the neuron comes to the membrane reaches the resting potential. These are the basic 3-4 phases of the neuron during the action potential. Now, the same thing is explained in a much more detail, that is a rapid influx of the sodium ions as explained earlier causes the polarity of the plasma membrane to reverse, and the ion channels then rapidly become inactive. As the sodium channels close, the sodium ions can no longer enter the neuron, and therefore, then they are actively transported back out of the plasma membrane, and this is as far as the sodium ion is concerned. And then the potassium channels are activated and there is an outward current of the potassium. So, this makes the return of the electrochemical gradient to the original state, that is a resting state. After an action potential has occurred, there is a transient negative shift, that is called the hyperpolarization. Now, this sodium based action potentials usually last for less than 1 millisecond, whereas a calcium based action potential can be a little longer, that is up to 100 milliseconds or so. Now, some types of the neurons, in some cases, the slow calcium spikes provide the driving force for a long burst of the rapidly emitted sodium spikes. In cardiac muscle, for example, or on the other hand, an initial fast of the sodium spike provides a primer to provoke the rapid onset of the calcium spike, which then produces the muscle contraction. Now, the famous Hodgkin-Huxley equation, they are these Hodgkin and Huxley actually received Nobel Prize in Physiology in Medicine in 1963 for their elegant experiments that are done on the sodium and potassium channels and voltage clamp method. And also contributing to the Nobel Prize was Sir John Carew, and he also shared the work on synapse. So, all three were actually shared the Nobel Prize in 1963 for their work on neural the sodium potassium channels and the synapse activation. So, this actually equation experiment actually what they showed is using a voltage clamp. Hodgkin and Huxley actually the first time demonstrated in 1949 that both sodium and potassium ions make important contributions to the ionic current during an action potential. These are the elegant initial experiments based on which a lot of neuroscience has been developed. They proposed, Hodgkin and Huxley have proposed, the changes in the membrane permeability for certain ions account for the observed changes in the membrane voltage, and their potential tend to be the Nernst potential of the ion to which the membrane was actually permeable, mainly permeable. So, at resting position, potassium conductance is dominant, leading to a resting potential of say minus 75 millivolts in agreement with the Bernstein. However, during the action potential, the upstroke the membrane becomes much more permeable to sodium, and therefore, the membrane potential tends towards its equilibrium, that is 60 millivolts. But the question then, how the permeability changes of the membrane to potassium or sodium, and then which are dynamically linked to the membrane potential. This part is actually not clear to them at that point of time in history, that how these are actually changing and what makes them to change. In simultaneous presence of the multiple permeating ions as well as the active ion pumps, the inside and outside neurons is not in equilibrium. The Hodgkin-Huxley experiment, where they have clearly shown that the potential changes the within the time of say about 2-3 milliseconds, the voltage changes in, that is shown in millivolts. The spike is around 2 millivolts up to reaches up to 40 positive 40 plus MV, whereas in the initial stages it is in the minus 70 millivolts. We have done the earlier equation where we considered only 3 ions. In this case, the resting potential of the N monovalent positive species AI and M monovalent negative species, that is BI, can be computed into the Goldman-Hodgkin-Katz equation, which is a modified equation of the Goldman equation. Here what is the E equal to RT by NF, which is like Nernst equation, modified Nernst equation, ln sigma n PAI, that is plus PAI plus sigma I, sigma tends to I to n, capital N, and then the plus of course A, that is the outside potential, then you have the concentration of the A plus sigma, then you have BI, the negative plus of course the concentration of the negative ions divided by sigma P A and then concentration of the A plus I, then sigma out inside B I, then B I outside. So, for here actually what we are doing is that P K is the membrane permeability for ion the whatever ion, that is the K is the for that particular ion. Based on their previous studies, actually Hodgkin and Huxley proposed an equivalent electrical circuit for each part of the nerve membrane with a capacitive current and ionic current from flow of the sodium and potassium, and as well as a leak of the current, that is the based on these two changes in the concentrations. This circuit can be described by differential equation of the form where Cm equal to, that is the concentration, that is difference between current, that is equal to change d small d Vm by dt plus I ion equal to I external. Now, this is the Ix is the total membrane of the current. Though with this, with ionic current also can be written in a similar fashion. Hodgkin Huxley actually assumed the ionic current I obeys Ohm's law, the initial simple electrical law, that I equal to Gi into Vmt bracket Vm minus Ei. Now, where Ei are the individual ionic equilibrium potentials and Vm is the time dependent membrane voltage and Gi is the voltage dependent ionic conductance. These three contribute to this equation. Therefore, this equation, the ionic current is given by, finally if you calculate, that is Ik plus Gl into Vm minus El equal to Il. Now, after doing the Hodgkin-Huxley equation and then based on that how the current can be calculated, now we will do the depolarization. After that, a neuron actually communicates with another neuron by sending an electrical signal to its tip of the neuron, which causes the neuronal tips to release chemicals that stimulate the neighboring cell. Therefore, they know the post-synaptic potential. This electrical signal and type of potential defines a graded depolarization of the membrane. After a cell has established resting potential, that cell has the capacity to undergo depolarization. Now, just during this depolarization, the charge within the cell rapidly shifts from negative to positive. For this rapid change to take place within the interior of the cell, several events has to occur and therefore, along the plasma membrane of the cell. Now, the next step will be, while the sodium potassium pump continues to work, the voltage gated channels that had been closed during the cell was resting potential has been opened up by an electrical stimulus. Now, as the sodium rushes back into the cell, the positive sodium ions raise the charge inside the cell from negative to positive. Once then what happens, once the interior of the cell becomes positively charged, depolarization of the cell is complete. So, depolarization is a consequence of the phase of the firing. So, this diagram shows you a overall feedback phenomena of what are all the things happening in the depolarization and repolarization. The entire depolarization to repolarization events actually take place within 2 milliseconds. That is very fast, allowing the neurons to fire action potential in very fast, and then this burst leads to the neuronal communication. Depolarization and repolarization process are actually shown in this figure. A number of events actually occur. Now, the last step is the refractory period. After the action potential, there is a refractory period when the membrane is not an excitable state. There are two kinds of refractory periods. One is absolutely refractory period and the other is the relative refractory period. The first absolute refractory period occurs within 1 to 2 milliseconds after the initiation of the action potential, and during this time an action potential cannot be generated. Now, the relative refractory period occurs immediately follows the absolute refractory period and lasts about 5 to 15 milliseconds, and during this time a second action potential can be generated, but only if there is a strong stimulus that activates it. So, the two refractory periods are caused by changes in the state of the sodium and potassium channel molecules. When closing after an action potential, sodium channels enter inactivated state in which they cannot be made to open, whatever happens regardless of the membrane potential, and this gives rise to absolute refractory period. So, these three phenomena are depicted in the figure 4. Even after sufficient number of sodium channels have been transitioned back to their resting state, it frequently happens that a fraction of the potassium channels remains open, making it difficult for the membrane potential to depolarize, and therefore thereby giving rise to the relatively refractory period. Because of the density and subtypes of the potassium channels that differ greatly between different types of neurons, the duration of the relative refractory period is highly variable. The absolute refractory period largely is responsible for the unidirectional propagation of the action potentials along the axons. At any given moment, the patch of axon behind actively spiking part is actually refractory, but the patch in front, which is shown in figure, not having been activated recently, is capable of being stimulated by the depolarization from the action potential. Therefore, the absolute refractory period imposes a maximum frequency of action potentials of 500 to 1000 per seconds. So, finally, we will summarize what we learnt in this module. That is, first we studied the membrane potential, that is at the resting stage, resting potential, and membrane potential is a voltage difference between the inner and outer parts of the membrane, and while the physiological resting membrane potential is in most cells is between -20 to -19 millivolts, depending on the other channel activates the present in the cells, for example sodium, potassium, and on specific cellular properties. We have also discussed the resting potential and sources of the resting potential, such as Donan potential, role of the ion pumps. Then we discussed the different equations of Goldman equation, Hodgkin-Huxley equation, and therefore we try to understand the resting potential and action potentials in using these equations. Finally, the refractory period was also discussed, and the absolute and refractory periods have been explained to you in this module. And with this I close this module. Thank you.